So there's two ways to measure income inequality. There's two different gaps that we look at besides just using the Gini coefficient. So we'll compare workers in what we call the 90-10 wage gap and the 50-10 wage gap. Now, the 90-10 wage gap measures a difference in wages between earners in the 90th percentile, these really, really high income earners, and those in the 10th percentile, the really, really low income earners. So this gives a sense of the overall inequality of the labor market, showing how large the gap is between the top earners and the bottom earners. This highlights the broad inequality and can show how much the top earners can pull away from the rest of the workforce, how extreme their income can get. We can also use the 50-10 wage gap, and this focuses on the wage difference between the 50th percentile, so these are the median earners, people right in the middle, and the 10th percentile, the lowest income earners. So this reflects income inequality, particularly at the lower end of the wage distribution. This is really useful for understanding challenges faced by low-income workers. Instead of comparing them to the highest workers, we're comparing them to someone in about the middle, the average worker, to see how big that difference is. This can reveal how well the labor market supports lower-income workers compared to just the average worker. If the 90-10 wage gap in, let's say, a company is large, it means there's a big gap between the highest paid and the lowest paid workers. So this may be a sign of a lack of upward mobility within a company. If we take this and look at the societal level, look at the United States, a large 90-10 wage gap suggests that there's a really large gap between the highest paid workers and the lowest paid workers. These are very different roles, and the higher earning roles, these are roles that typically would have more education requirements, require a lot more skills fewer people could do. They're probably extremely productive, making a lot of money for their firms. If there's a huge 90-10 wage gap that's very large, there's something really, really separating people at the low end of the income distribution and those at the high end of the income distribution. Over time, we've seen that the high wage earners, the top 10%, or even the top 1% of wage earners, have pulled farther ahead compared to those at the bottom, so the bottom 10% or 25% of workers. Now, this trend has been talked about quite a bit by economists or even people in the general press and politicians, and it reflects structural changes in the economy. We've undergone significant changes in the really 45 years since 1980. This has been a long time, and 1980, it was a very different world compared to 2024. So there were things like increased demand for highly skilled workers, technological advancements, and globalization, all which changed significantly since 1980 and really contributes to the current wage structure we see and the level of income inequality we're experiencing in the US today. Now, this income inequality, this growth since the 1980s is also influenced by institutional factors. So there's changes in unionization rates, minimum wage policies, tax structures, a whole bunch of different things that the government does that also leads to a change in income inequality. Wage gaps between workers with different levels of education. So think of people with a high school diploma versus someone with a bachelor's or even an advanced degree. The gaps between them have grown significantly. This reflects the increasing premium placed on higher education in a knowledge-based economy. Workers need higher education. They need to develop more skills to work in a knowledge-based economy, especially you're doing stuff with computer that you're not going to be able to get a lot of these skills currently in the high school curriculum. So you need to get more advanced education in order to be able to succeed in that economy and to earn higher wages. But this is going to have implications for the income distribution in an economy, especially when you have a bunch of people that aren't receiving college degrees. So another thing to consider is that workers with more experience tend to earn more. But this premium has widened across industries as some reward those more specialized skills more than others. Like we talked about already, age groups see a disparity. So younger workers are facing lower wages than older, more established workers.